for over 40 years, and he still teaches in the classroom. Dr. Nader, would you please come up and say hello?
Many of you probably know that he was a political leader that was very instrumental in helping India claim their independence. And the quote is, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And I think that
with the Staten Island Mental Health Council. Lorraine has been with the Staten Island Developmental Disabilities Council and runs a nonprofit organization here on Staten Island dedicated to dignity for people with developmental disabilities. And is Diane Buglio here? No. I am going to do a brief introduction of Dr. David Good, who will then introduce Geraldo Rivera. Dr. Good is a professor here at the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. He is a world-renowned sociologist and ethnomethodologist. I don't really know what ethnomethodology is, but he's at the top. He and Daryl Hill have just written a book about the history of Willowbrook, but this is not David's first foray. He has worked for decades to support the rights of people with disabilities to live lives that are dignified and in which they are respected, in which they have the right to grow and live and work and marry the people they love. David is in charge of the Willowbrook State School Memorial Archives here at our library, and he has maintained them for many years. He is also has been the director of the Disability Studies minor, which I believe may be turning into a major here at the College of Staten Island. David, I'm so honored to call him my friend and my colleague, and I know that wasn't the Dutch greeting that says, "Here's David," but here's David.
I will be brief. First of all, let me acknowledge one person we missed, which is Christine Sia, another tremendous supporter of the college, and as was it related to people with disabilities on Staten Island. I am not the head of the archives. I did help establish it, but it's James Kaiser, if anyone wants to get in touch with the people at the archives. I'll be very brief because I think you've heard a very good introduction to the day by Lacey. I would just add a couple of things that, Geraldo Rivera is a New Yorker. He was born here in New York, raised in New York. Since 1970, he's been a public figure. We've all kind of, in my generation, we've grown up with him. It's hard to not call him Geraldo, Mr. Rivera. He deserves, of course, all the acknowledgments that Lacey gave to him. I would just point out a couple of things you might not know about him. First of all, he is a CUNY graduate. He got his JD from Brooklyn. And so he shares that in common with you. He also changed his careers a number of times early in life, something that you'll probably learn about as well. So you can see you don't have to know what you're doing in order to become a great success. There's a link that was pointed out here between Geraldo and Dr. Bill Bronston and also Dr. Wilkins, who was here at Willowbrook, documented in my book. They were the people who kind of turned him on to the conditions here and gave him access to the school and introduced him to Bernard Parabello, who I think we should acknowledge, even though he's not here. Bernard is kind of the face of Willowbrook, a good friend of all of us here up on the dais. For 40 years now, Geraldo has been an advocate for persons with disabilities. I think that the list that we heard is really a small list when it comes to what he has done, both in terms of his expose of Willowbrook and things related to Willowbrook, but more generally in our state. He has affected quality of life for persons with disabilities probably more than any other single individual, just by the fact that he helped establish the Self-Advocacy Association of New York City, which I regard as one of your finest achievements. So I will let him get on with his talk to you. It's a beautiful day. It is an auspicious occasion in numbers of respects, and we're very happy to invite you back here to speak at the college.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. Great to be here. I just want to acknowledge again Murray Schneps and Vicki Schneps. They were here December of 1971. They brought me, along with the other parents for what was then the Women's Organization for Retarded Children. It was funny, I also want to acknowledge, if I may, my two VIPs who are here, my wife Erica and my daughter Sol. Stand up, honey, my 8-year-old. Just finishing 2nd grade. And I also want to point out the supreme irony. When I first arrived here, when we first drove up to the main gate, there was someone waiting for us, and they escorted us in and showed us to the VIP parking. The first time I came, I jumped the back fence and ran over the lawn, and with my stolen key got into building 6B. So it was a very, very different acknowledgement. And before I go any further, I have not been on Staten Island since the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. And I know that many of you in the audience were directly affected by that awful storm, by Hurricane Sandy. And I know, maybe more to the point of what we're going to talk about today, I know that many of the students graduating now from the college and with your newly accredited degrees in social work, I know that many of you were volunteers following the storm, and you helped long hours bringing food and clothing and helping those, even though many of you were directly yourselves impacted by the awful storm. So I congratulate you, and that activism is a spirit that I hope that you keep. That is the most important thing as you go forward in life now, in this your chosen profession. And I said it was great to be here, and it is in every sense great to be here. But you understand, and I know that because you know the history here, that it is for profound reasons that I have avoided coming back to these beautiful 200 acres. It was always beautiful. The grounds here were always spectacularly beautiful, but I have not been here since Governor Hugh Carey gave me the key to building number 6, because it's such a painful personal memory, as it is. Bernard Carabello was mentioned. He was going to be here. Bernard, who was a resident of Willowbrook almost his entire life, from the age of 3 until the age of 21, misdiagnosed as being, at the time we called it mentally retarded, when what Bernard suffered from was cerebral palsy, suffers from, or lives with, I should say. He slipped and fell a couple of days ago, and as of this morning he was hoping to come, but his ribs were just too sore. He has a tough time, but he has lived a full and wonderful life. He's almost retirement age. He's worked in self-advocacy almost since the minute he left Willowbrook so many years ago. He's, I think, 61 years old now. He runs one of the most effective self-advocacy groups in New York. So I want to acknowledge Bernard. Bernard is our living link to the bad old days. When I came that first morning, when we jumped the fence and ran across the lawn, Dr. Mike Wilkins and myself and Bob Ellis, my cameraman, and Davey Weingold, the sound man, behind us, we really didn't know what to expect. I had no one in my family who was developmentally disabled. I had no personal connection with the condition at all. I had been told by Dr. Bronston and Dr. Wilkins that the conditions of the young people, mostly young people at Willowbrook, was awful, but I had done exposés many, many times before of different things: drug abuse, homelessness, other horrors in life. But I was utterly unprepared for the reality that existed, and I understand 19 of the buildings have been preserved inside those nice, well-built brick buildings in this lovely campus-like, park-like setting. But when we used the key and opened the door and entered that building number 6, I have to tell you that my world was changed forever by what I saw there. And I know because of the archives you have, many of you have seen The Last Great Disgrace. I won't labor the point. But it was appalling how society had forgotten about the people inside the buildings, inside these pretty well-built buildings. How society had decided that the best way to deal with this affliction, whatever you call it, was to take it out of sight, to just hide it away. And it was incredibly disheartening how dehumanizing the conditions were. The residents were, many of them without clothes. They were unattended, basically. There were 60 of them crowded in that one ward with one attendant, at times two, but usually one attendant. They were smeared with their own feces. They were making these awful sounds, this mournful wail. I described it then, and I think of it now, it still gives me the chills. And basically, they were living very short, brutal lives until they passed. And that was the model of care, not just in New York. Willowbrook was at the time the nation, maybe the world's largest institution for that population we described as mentally retarded. But it was by no means unique. There were others in New York State, Letchworth, others throughout the country and other states, all across this nation, all across the world. That's the way developmental disabilities were cared for, generally speaking, in the civilized, progressive Western world. They were cared for by neglect, by abuse, by ignoring them, by allowing them to fester and die these brutal, these short lives. The average life expectancy then in the 20s, the 30s at most. They were fed in Willowbrook a kind of a assembly line. They were fed a kind of oatmeal, a pablum kind of thing that was shoveled into their mouths. And the most common cause of death here was pneumonia from the food getting into their lungs. So not only was the institution not helping, the institution was accelerating their physical, emotional, and mental deterioration. It was horrifying, and everybody knew it didn't have to be that way. Why? Because there was a simple, non-technical solution or alternative to the institutionalization of developmentally disabled people. It was the small community-based residence where they could live the same kind of lives as those who were inside the walls of Willowbrook, but the kind of lives that able-bodied people led. You know, they could live just as happily, just as full lives on the outside in these small community-based residences as people without any conditions, as you and I want to live. That was the alternative. The alternative was to get them out where they were cared for in a ratio of 60-1 and put them someplace where in the first home 8 could live with 8 attendants, 1-to-1, where their personal needs could be cared for. Where if they wanted breakfast cereal, if they wanted Cheerios in the morning, they could get Cheerios. If they wanted Wheaties, they could get Wheaties. If they wanted to grow up to do this job or that job, they could receive training for it. They could live long lives, normal lives. Bernard, now in his 60s, is not atypical. The solution was a community-based network of residential homes where as normal as possible lives could be led, where their aspirations could be realized and recognized in the same way that the aspirations of any of us could be realized and recognized. And it has been a revolution that has swept this country and swept the Western world. Institution after institution has been closed down. One of my proudest days was that day in 1986 when Governor Carey gave me that key to building number 6 Ward B. Because it was the end or the ending of an era. And the legal work that Murray Schneps did and what the New York Civil Liberties Union did and what the others did has been monumental, establishing as a constitutional right these young people to live full lives, to have access to a normal setting where they could have their personal aspirations recognized and realized. Activism is what freed those people, primarily the activism of the parents. the activism of the supporters, the advocates, what they did, what the Dr. Michael Wilkins did, what the Dr. Bronstons did, what the Parents Association did, the Working Organization for Retarded Children did, what the Staten Island Advance newspaper did, what we did at Channel 7 Eyewitness News with our initial exposés, was to expose this societal wrong, was to bring the conscience of the city and the state and the nation and the world to a place where they could no longer say, we didn't know about this. Now everybody knew. But that activism that I celebrate and that I hope that my life represents in broadcasting, that's what you are now. The mantle is passed to you. We need your activism. The activism that you demonstrated in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy, that full-spirited, energetic, we're going to change, we're going to fix this. You're going to advocate for your clients if social work is the avocation that you choose. You're going to work to make the world a better place. So not only will you be improving, and as your parents are so proud of you today, yourselves as you graduate college and move on in life, but you're going to be doing noble work. My most favored moments in my professional life, now in its 5th decade, isn't the award or the recognition or the rating. It's nothing, not even the big paycheck. You know what it is? It's when young people come up to me and say, you know why I get into social work? I get into social work because I heard about that Willowbrook expose. I heard about how things were back then. That is what swells my heart with pride. Because I say, really? Did I help do that? To the extent that you are here as a product of what you know about the ills in society, and you are here because of the desire to help fix what it is that we complain about. That's the most incredible ambition you could possibly have. We are a nation in many ways of complainers, of kvetchers. Ah, this bothers me. Ah, that bothers me. This bothers me. The difference between complaining and working to correct the thing you're complaining about is the difference between those who will make a difference and those who will just merely go through life getting the best deal they possibly can. You will make a difference, because not only will you make a difference in your own lives and in the lives of your families, but you will make a difference in the lives of the people you are working with and for. Your clients, those people that need you, their lives will be materially enhanced in a way that you will be like a walking angel. You will be someone who can fix what ails us. Now, can you make over the world? Can you change everything? I don't know. Maybe you'll have the expose. Maybe that'll happen to you. But the important thing is that for every person that you help, that you guide, that you assist, that you make their lives richer and better, your life will similarly be enhanced by it. Your soul will be fed by that positive vibe. You will be the next generation of the people who will make this a better place. I want to end now where I started. It's great to be here. It is nice to be here. The haunting memories, though, are something that I will carry forever. But what I see now, in seeing you, the first graduating class in this College of Social Work with this Bachelor of Science in Social Work, now you will be the memory I have from this place. You've taken my nightmare and you made it into something enormously positive. I send my heartfelt congratulations to you. Godspeed, go get them, kick some butt, and congratulations.
Wow, that was awesome. I don't know if you all realize that Geraldo came here today because of an invitation by our students. our students select the people they want to hear from during graduation, and he was at the top of the list. And believe me, I was quite surprised when he accepted our invitation and had no idea what an event we would have here today. It is now time for us to honor our graduates. I'd like to call up here Professor Carrie Meyer, who again, by the election of our students, wanted them to introduce her, and so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Ready? April Albright. April is a member of the Phi Alpha Social Work Honor Society. She will be attending the College of Staten Island MSW program, and she would like to thank her mother, who is her biggest supporter. My cue. Ramad Backinson. Jacqueline Blake. Jackie is also a member of the Phi Alpha Social Work Honor Society. She will be attending grad school here at CSI. She would like to thank her family, boyfriend, cohort, and professors. Without you, I wouldn't be here. We did it! Dwayne Britton. Punch? Okay. Would be so proud. I love you. Christy Brownlee. Christy is a member of the Phi Alpha Social Work Honor Society. She will be attending Fordham University in the fall. She would like to thank her family and friends for never giving up on her, and to her inspiration, her motivation, and the best thing that ever happened to her. Angel Ghosh, who taught me that. Arlen Guerrero.
So cute. Ben said, "Mommy, I see a butterfly."